Welcome back. Another episode of Dragons and Demons. We are episode 24, and today I bring in another guest, another former player, one of my all-time favorites, one of my Mount Rushmore of high school football players that I've ever had. And today I have Adam Moezaw, center, Frederick High School.
Hello, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a long time coming.
It's been a little while. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's nice to meet everyone. I'm Adam Moezaw. I was class of 22, Frederick High School. Knew Coach Perry since 6th grade when he measured my big head during a youth football game.
Big old cranium.
And he was like, "You're gonna play for me?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I don't know if we can get a helmet for you." So that was the main problem. But yeah, I currently go to Columbia University. My freshman year, I was a dual sport athlete for a little bit. Switched commitments a little bit around, so now I'm just starting shot put at Columbia University, and yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Yeah, when you were in, I think it was 6th grade, you played up on varsity, right? Most kids don't at that age. They're usually on
I was
JV.
too heavy, so.
Yeah, and you were that kid that was like, "Hey, Coach Perry, I'm gonna come play for you," and you had that high-pitched voice, big head, glasses, and it was like, you were like the most confident kid in the program, but you were like one of the runts. Like,
Yeah, I didn't
you
know.
were heavy, but you were on the smaller side. You had a baby face, big old head, and I was just like, "All right, buddy, pat you on the head. Here's a couple helmet stickers. You keep doing your thing, and we'll see you someday."
Yeah.
Little did I know that you'd pan out, be a 4-year starter and a stud lineman for us, and one of our biggest and best guys that we had.
Yeah, I mean, you guys made it super easy, so it was fun when I did it. So.
All right, well, tell us a little bit about your background further. Tell us about the family, the prior to high school, and get to know Adam a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up. Most people listening to this might even know, but my parents owned the Asian supermarket down what was West Patrick Street right next to the school. Went to West Frederick. Knew I always wanted to go to Frederick because my brother went to Frederick, so I wanted to follow the tradition. Somehow found my way into football after realizing I was too big for basketball, but not tall enough. I was long the wrong way, not vertically, but
Vertically challenged.
yeah. So eventually I started playing football. I fell in love with the game, and the most fun part for me was realizing like this is hard. Like this is not easy. Like you don't get any pats on the backs. Like everything just hurts. And
you enjoyed the grind.
yeah, it taught me
Nice.
like my first intro to realizing what you guys used to preach a lot was like no one's coming to save you. So
Right.
it's a selfless sport. It's a thankless sport most of the time, especially when you're a 5'1", 200-pound center that has no idea what's going on. You tell all your friends you play football, they're like, "Oh, you're not the running back." And so it turned into that, or it started off with that, and then eventually turned into what we know now, which was one of the last years of your coaching career. It was like the second to last year, right?
Right.
And I think we had a great time doing it.
We had that was a fun season. Most of those games have been my most memorable games. I mean, that following year, it was just blowout after blowout, and it was
Right.
kind of like, ugh, all right, let's just get to the next game
No grit.
until we hit playoffs. I mean, we didn't need it. But yeah, you were a different kid from the beginning. Like I said, the first conversation where we met, it was like, all right, I had a lot of kids that came through like, "I'm going to be your best player," and then you watch them play, you watch them develop, you bring them to an off-season workout, and you're like, "All right, dude, we've had enough. You can get out of here." But you were always that kid that was like, "I'm going to be your best player," and you're like, "Okay." And then at workout after workout after workout, you just kept trying to one-up everyone around you and trying to be better than everyone around you. And I think a lot of people learn lessons like that. And I think you learned it from the beginning where you were just like, I enjoy the grind, I enjoy the process, and that turned you into what you are today and made you more successful and gave you more opportunities and allowed you to become a whole lot more than just the kid with high aspirations.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to be the next Michael Jordan, but no one knows what Michael Jordan did behind off camera. And one of those things that you brought to the table, and one of those things that kind of, I mean, a lot of our success I credit to guys like you, guys like Trayvon, guys like Kasaya, and the guys just had that unteachable leadership, and we always tried to teach it. We always tried to pull it out of guys, but you were one that just like day one, you were like, all right, where do we need to be? Come on, guys, let's go. And you're always dragging people with you. You're always pushing other people to do things. So what do you think made you different than most?
Right. I think honestly the biggest part of it was it's a lot of shamelessness, which people don't realize. I think especially in this new generation too, like all the high schoolers or the middle schoolers, they have this like attached image that they have to have, but In 6th grade, I was probably the opposite, but I thought, I didn't think anything of it. I was, what? I mean, you saw me. I had a head bigger than any part of my body. My tummy was huge, everything like that. But I just saw what I wanted to do, and I didn't have any shame about it. I was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's sort of what I try to take it now, and which I should take more of. It's like, why have shame when you're not where you want to be? So like, if I want to come into a football program that was 327 the years previous of to me coming in, and I'm a freshman, and I convinced my brother, I convinced my cousin, I told even you, we're gonna win. Like, we're gonna win. It's like, you can't have shame about it. There's kids in middle school that are like, you guys are gonna lose. Like, we went to a game and you guys lost by 40. I was like, no, we're not there yet. Just wait.
Right.
We're gonna win. And it's you can't let other people throw you off. You can't let other people shame you because they don't have the same vision as you. They don't have the same goals as you. And I think it's a good bit of ignorance that people don't usually take in, but I think it's super important too.
And you're part of this generation now where the try-hard generation, or I guess the anti-try-hard generation is what I'm going to call it, where you are not cool unless you're just naturally gifted. If you're naturally gifted, you're the man, you're the king, you're the best there is. If you suck, get out of the way. But if you try hard, you'd be called a try-hard, and no one likes you, no one respects you. Like, no one respects the grind. They just want you to be automatically good or quit. And you see that a lot, but again, we found success in the core group of guys that were tryhards, the guys that were like, I mean, obviously you have your practice heroes and your practice All-Americans, but the guys that were like, I'm not walking out of this weight room until I'm sweating or I failed at something.
Yeah.
I'm not walking out of this workout until I puke or until something happens because I need to improve. And Coach Cadden and the rest of the staff, every class of guys we had, we were always like, all right, who's kind of rising to the top? Who's the guys that's going to carry us to the next level? And it was always the first class we had. Like, we had a couple, you were probably a third class together, Coach Cadden and I. But you were always the class, like the Adam Moezaw, Tyler Hovey, like that class was always like, this is the group that's going to take us there. We had guys before that would help us. We had guys after that were strong, but it was like, that's our baseline. That's the group that's going to take us further. So your senior year, kind of going backwards, your sophomore year, we went 4-6 and made playoffs for the first time in 15 years.
Yeah.
Your freshman year, we went 4-6 but missed playoffs.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your freshman year. You ended the year on an injury.
Yeah.
And that took you out. What was that? Week 4?
It was
week 5?
Brunswick week 4. Yeah.
Okay.
It was super tough. That was my first moment of like,
welcome to high school.
Yeah, welcome to high school. Let's slow you down a little bit. And even when I was on the scooting around school, I was still preaching. I was like, guys, we're going to be back. Like, don't worry. We're going to be good. We're just freshmen. We're young.
Right.
Because even then, I still had no shame. Like, and a lot of people could see it as, like, ignorance, or a lot of people could see it as, what is it called, ego. But it's like, let's go. Like, let's keep trying.
Right.
And even then, my freshman year, it's like, I got people that have never played football or would never think of playing football before to sign up. Because that was what you guys preached too.
Who was in that group?
Nahid, Joey, like my hometown friends, like some of my best friends now that I still see every day. Like when I'm back, it's like we got them to sign up for football. It's
right,
like,
and guys like that, they're not your D1 aspects.
Exactly.
They're not your guys that are going to sell Friday night tickets, but those are your guys that are pushing in the weight room to push other guys. That's your core group. They become the scout team. They become the special teams. They become. You can get 30 of those guys. I've always been a big fan of, like, you get 30 of those guys. That's what builds the program.
Right. Yeah, and like coming back to my injury, it was also around Ramadan, which is Nahid. So Nahid was Muslim, and he was fasting during it and still lifting, still showing up to every sprint workout. I was like, this kid, like, he doesn't even know if he's gonna play next year, right? And it's like he's showing up every day. It's like, why can't I? And that's what I've always tried to look forward to, and especially now, like I'm surrounded by so many talented individuals, like whether it be in the classroom or whether it be in athletics. Like one of my closest friends at Columbia just competed at NCAA championships in Hayward. I'm like, this guy is way more athletic than me, but I've also seen him work so much harder than me. And it's like, why would I take the foot off the gas? Like, my freshman year was probably my hungriest year because I was like, we haven't done anything. I was like, I said I was going to win, but we went 4-6. 8th grade, I was 4-6. 7th grade, I was 4-6. I was like, let's change that. And then, if you want to transition, sophomore year was 4-6, made playoffs. I was like, all right, we're getting older. We're starting to make a little bit of a difference. That's when Chris Mativia was starting to shine really well. Tyler Hovey was growing up. Like, we were all getting bigger. And then COVID hit. So
Oh man, now that was a huge turning point. But before we go there, sophomore year, so we make the playoffs for the first time in 15 years, and they changed the playoffs a little bit, so it was a little easier to get in, but a feat regardless. It was incredible.
I remember that bus ride when we were all celebrating after the TJJV game that you put us down in.
Right. So our rival did not have a varsity that year for whatever reason, whatever. So we had like a Thursday night game or a Friday night game where JV played, and a bunch of our sophomores we put on varsity to play against, or we put on JV to play, and that's their level, so it's appropriate. Yeah. And we were just kind of playing and waiting and watching other game scores to see, like, have we made playoffs? Because there was a couple factors that went into play there. So it was like halfway through the first quarter, we saw some scores, and we were like, we're going to make playoffs. So we started pulling guys. Yeah. And I remember the other team was like, we would have won if you guys wouldn't have played all your dudes. And I was like, well, first of all, they're all sophomores, so they should have played. Second of all, you have all your juniors on this team. And third, we pulled them after the first quarter when we were up by 40 points. Yeah. And we still dogged you. But that's just the trash talk.
That's just friendly rivalry, though.
Right. So then we go and play Linganore in a cold winter game.
That was a great game.
And the first, two series, we had it. We were feeling really good. We had that botched rugby punt play that I threw in there that Xavier threw backside and threw a first down, and I was like, just how I drew it up. Yeah. We had Trayvon's big interception. We had a lot of good things go our way, and then it just kind of, our depth and our lack of experience there kind of shined, and they ended up just putting it on us for the next 3 quarters. But it was a real eye-opener. And then we're preparing for our next season, your junior season, and it's like the team is starting to grow. We're adding some names, and we're adding some roster numbers, and we're doing some things that are special. And then the world comes to a stop. Right. We transition to COVID. We don't have a fall season. They shut down schools, all this nonsense. Really unfortunate year. We didn't have a fall season. We roll into the spring season, and it was like every day was a waiting game. What are we doing? What are we doing? Are we playing? Are we not playing? Are we playing? Are we not playing? And it turns out that we have a February season. We had 6 games scheduled. We ended up only playing 4 because we had an outbreak. And that was actually when Mason was born, so I would have missed that first game anyway.
I remember that night.
But our first practice was where?
It was in the parking lot in the snow.
In the parking lot, because there was too much snow on the turf to let us. So we parked our trucks in front of parking spaces so that people couldn't pull in. We just did walkthrough in the parking lot in helmets. And even though it was February, we still had heat acclimatization where we had to be in helmets only. So that was a really interesting time.
Yeah, it was all out of whack. And I think one of the best things that could have happened to the program also was having a mind like Bob Plant. Because even though it was February, it was the first practice back. It was
still
cold. Still football. Still kicked us all out after the second practice or whatever it was because we weren't working hard enough. And that transition from being so comfortable during COVID, because every kid my age would just play Fortnite, play video games, just sit in their house all day. And I can't lie, I did the same, especially for the first.
I did too.
Yeah, everyone did the same, and everyone had to, especially for the first spring of my sophomore year.
For the 2 weeks when everyone thought it was just going to be 2 weeks and we'd be back to business as usual, little did we know.
They're like, let's all have fun. Let's all develop the worst habits possible for our athletic career. Like that was what happened. And going into the junior year, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get recruited? How am I ever going to do what I wanted to do in college? Not just for athletics. I always had an academic mindset along with that, and we're probably going to touch on that later, but it was like, how do I get to college and make my family proud, make myself proud when I don't even know if we're going to be able to play a football game this year. I don't even know if I'm going to go in person to school ever again. It was a lot of scary stuff. So
yeah, so we have the spring season, we have that COVID season, which I'll put down that's the turning point in our so we've been at a disadvantage. We don't have the same money, we don't have the same opportunity at our school and our demographics. A lot of our kids are free and reduced meals. We have a lot of that going on. So our team doesn't get the opportunity to meet like other teams do. Other teams can have practice all season long. Our kids are so, they don't have trainers. We don't have access to personal trainers. We don't have access to all these things. So we're kind of behind the curve. But what that spring season did for us was it gave us spring football, gave us 2-3 weeks off, and then we rolled into our summer workout a week or 2 off, and then we were right back in the fall. So all that time loss that usually happens where we're basically reteaching our offense again and our defense again because everyone has that gap and they forget about it, we just kept rolling just like everybody else. But it was really, it kind of opened up that like we weren't allowed in the weight room, so it kind of leveled the playing field for us. So we have a spring season. We go 2-2, way below our expectations.
Yeah.
We only beat our 2 city rivals, and we lost pretty bad to the other teams. But again, we saw some things. Summer workouts hit, and then we roll around to our junior season. So how was your junior season?
Oh, you mean senior
season. Sorry. Junior.
My senior year, it started off with the Frederick News Post predictions. If I remember correctly,
I don't even remember that.
We weren't even up there.
We weren't even top 5.
We weren't top 5. It was an accumulation of like, let's stop being disrespected, guys.
Yeah.
That was when Chris Matevia came back. That was not to name drop, but that was when a lot of the guys came back, and it was like, let's do something.
Right.
I know that during that junior COVID year, we had all juniors on the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
We knew we were going to grow up. We were still looking.
We only graduated like 6 out of that COVID season, so it was like that whole group was everybody just came right back.
Yeah, and we definitely banked on that. It was definitely sort of a gamble to train your juniors really hard, but we had something to prove. I know first game of the year we came out against Aberdeen, and we were like, we could do this thing. It's like, we might have let 3 to 4 touchdowns, but it's like, we can do this thing.
They wore those yellow jerseys. Was that where we took the coach buses out there?
No. So we played Aberdeen at home. I think the year after you guys played there. But we played Aberdeen at home, and we finally won. And it felt so good to be back in football, not just football, but also this is a Frederick High.
That was when they had that huge running back, right?
Yeah, they had a huge running back, and then we had Josh Hayward strip the ball, I think, and return it for a touchdown.
He did that like 6 times. A strip score.
Not to get off track, but he's my favorite football player in any division in any history possible.
He's up there for me too. But it's so frustrating as a coach because he was not the kid that you would look at in the offseason and be like, he's going to be the guy we need to like. He was the guy that was like, maybe we should move him to guard. And then on a Friday night, you're like, screw it, hand the ball to him because we need yards, we need points, we need him to do something crazy.
Special shout out to Josh. I saw his brother the other day, but he was a stud. Like
he was one of those high school kids that they don't do that.
Yeah,
high school kids do not walk around at 240 and juke kids from 15 yards away. It's not. He was a special person.
Yeah, he also, I think it also ties back to what I was saying about being shameless, because he was also the same kid that would come in as a JV running back and tell all of us, like, even though I was a year older than him, he was like, yeah, we're gonna dominate, we're gonna win every game, we're gonna do something crazy, and it's like a 5'4" running back or whatever.
And he'd be talking that trash, and you'd be like, well, put him in on Friday night and try and stop him. The other teams would be like, dude, you're nothing, and then we'd be like, that nothing just ran for 4 touchdowns and set a school record for scores against you. So
scored 6 touchdowns in a game, player of the year, senior year. He's a perfect example of not caring about what others think. And sir, some people might have seen it as ego or whatever, but still, it's like he did what he was supposed to do. Yeah. He was also a great teammate to most of us at the end of the day. Like he would practice hard, he would make us better, and that culture is what we eventually had our senior year, in which I was looking for the whole time.
Right, and I think we always dreamed of it, but I think for the most part, your senior year and the year after, our practices were more intense than most of our games. Where like practice was a grind, and if you made it through Friday night, it was easy. Yeah. And for the most part, that was true those 2 years.
Yeah, I think it was a big culture change, because freshman and sophomore year, we were just kind of surviving. We were just like, all right, what wins can we squeak out? What we could do? And senior year, I was like, can I survive this practice right now? I was like, I have the best player I've ever played against, Josh Hayward, in front of me, and we've gone against D1 guys, we've gone against D2 guys. I was like, but this kid's gonna make me work every play. And that's sort of the same mindset we had, especially on the O-line, where it was like, we're all seniors, like, let's compete. Every practice, it's like, I would have Tyler Hovey lining up against me for a drill, and I would try my hardest. Anthony Gonzalez, like, these guys are perfect examples of also just trying for the greater good.
Right.
Like, let's all work hard because
it's selfless, because some of these kids weren't working for scholarships. They weren't working for college. They were working for today. They were working for their brothers. Yeah. I think some of the most intense competitions in practice, though, were not between the players. It was between our coordinators, Coach Plant and Coach Cadden.
Yeah.
The shouting matches, as far as like our team's gonna beat yours, like that was awesome.
So fun. Oh my
and there would be days when it'd be kind of slow, and I'd sneak over to Coach Plant and be like, "Hey,
Instigate.
I need you to take some shots at Coach Cadden," and then I'd go over to Coach Cadden and be like, "Hey, Coach Plant's coming for you," and it would just start a trash talking competition. Mm-hmm. We'd get into the heat of the moment, and we'd be ready to transition to defense, and we'd have a plan, we'd have a script, and I'd go to Coach Cadden. He's like, "No, I want to keep doing this. I need to win. I want to do 20 more minutes of this. I want to do 40 more minutes of this," and we would just stick it out. And man, again, just that live time was like, You can't beat that.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you guys did was you created a culture that was fun, but also like let's take each other's heads off, and then when it's Friday night, we're all
don't
beat
give
up.
us that credit. You guys built that.
We might have built it.
I've been trying to build it for 10 years, and finally it clicked with your group. You guys built that. You guys were the ones that were like, yes, we're gonna do this, instead of being like, man, coach, it's just practice. And we had some guys on the team that just have like a little more laid back or lax look in their style of play, like Davion and Newton. Like, these guys are quiet and they don't look like they're giving full intensity just because they're striders, because they're very low emotional level.
Yeah.
But like, they're killers in the football field.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to like practice time, it's like, we need someone who's going to scream. We need a Josh Hayward. We need an Adam Moezaw. We need somebody like that. Same with Tyler.
Right.
Tyler was like big and quiet, but he was never going to be like, I'm going to whoop your butt. Like, it was always just like, back to the huddle, and then he'd come out on fire.
Like he has like a secret bet in his.
Right.
That's what he says. He's like, bet. Let's go. Let's go.
But he wouldn't even say that much.
Yeah.
So the first game that kind of opened my eyes that season was Middletown, that second game of the year.
Yeah. That was probably the most, even though we lost by a point.
That game was halftime, and I think we were down by like a point.
Yeah.
And it was like, I needed to like pause and reflect and catch my breath. I was like, we could actually beat these guys.
Yeah.
And I actually got an apology from the ref, because we had the worst officiating crew. Like, he was like, I did not think you guys would have a football game. I apologize. I didn't give you the best crew. And I was like, take that down for writing.
Yeah.
But no one thought we had a shot against them. And the game that we put on, and Trayvon played lights out, and Chris played lights out, and like our line played phenomenally. It was like, yes, we missed a bunch of things. It's high school football. It's the second game. Coaches made mistakes. Kids made mistakes. But it was like, man, if we can play at this level now, just imagine where we'll be in 10 weeks.
Right.
And the season just carried on, and we kept putting those games together.
Yeah, we were a team that definitely, we knew we were going to get better. We were just waiting for like when we could put our foot on the gas. I think Middletown was a perfect example, though, of at halftime. I think halftime's a perfect example of when we woke up, because the first half we were slow. I was like, what is going on, guys? Let's go. We could beat these guys. And I was screaming my head off. I think I remember, like, I was in a different like headspace. I guess I was talking a lot. I was yelling at the refs. I was yelling at the other team. I was like, let's go. Like, this is Middletown. This is my chance to finally beat them. Because even in youth league, and we're friends with all those guys now, like, they would dominate us. They would win every championship. They would win every game. Freshman, sophomore year, we lost to them by a ton. I was like, let's do something about it. Let's win. And even though we lost, I finally realized, like, when I saw guys like Anthony Gonzalez, like tearing up at the end of the game, I was cheering up at the end of the game. All these guys on our team were cheering up at the end of the game. I was like, this is a special group. I was like, we actually care. Because that was the difference. When we would lose, when we would get blown out my freshman or sophomore year, we'd be like, oh, okay, we scored this, we did this. Even the individual players, like, I know I tipped a pass to Core for interception, right? And I was like,
hold on.
Sorry.
I don't know what's happening.
It's live commercial break.
Trying to pull up our schedule that year.
Yeah. I think I remember. It was 47-46, I think. I'm right.
All right, so according to Max Preps, it was 35-34. We lost by 2.
Oh, maybe it was that. Yeah, but I had a tip pass to Core for interception, and it was around third quarter, fourth quarter when we were down. I was like, Core, like, good job on that. He's like,
all right, this is killing
me. Should I restart the story? I think it's that.
I know, I can't turn it off. Shut up.
Max Preps, they're selling out, huh?
Yeah. All right, so we'll see if we leave and learn and nothing else comes up. Yeah. But yeah, Middletown 35-34 loss, and then we just went on a run.
Yeah, that felt good. I know we were actually super excited to play the Tuscarora game. It's unfortunate that they did end up forfeiting COVID or something like that.
Oh, yeah. So Wheaton 63-7 at their place, right?
Yeah.
Their field was like an ice rink because they had this.
Oh,
Jesus.
Max Preps, they need the ad space really bad. It's this one right there, yeah. You could probably pause it.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, their field was like an ice rink. I remember Hugo missing a field goal that he should have made because he slipped. And they no offense to them, they were one of the saddest teams I've ever seen, and they just had a lot of things go against them.
Yeah.
We did our best in film to try and hype them up, but you guys saw right through it, and you're like, but we were up like halfway through the first quarter. We're pulling starters.
Yeah.
We're like, this is too bad. And there was like 3 minutes left in that game, and it's 63-7. And the refs were just like, let it run. We're done. Let the clock run. We're done.
Yeah.
And then we get hyped up to play Tuscarora. We actually had a couple
gosh.
of our players suspended that game for some things that happened in school.
Yeah.
And then, what did they have, a COVID thing?
It was 20 minutes.
We were about to get on the bus.
It was 10 o'clock. We were gonna leave, and then we get told, "Hey guys, no game." And honestly, Tuscarora was probably the game that we were the most excited for. We were like, "This is our first Frederick County team that we're gonna crush. Like, let's do it. Let's put it on them." But yeah, eventually we get to Catoctin as well.
Catoctin was at home?
Yeah, Catoctin was at home.
So I remember at halftime at Catoctin, their coach was very upset with me, thinking we were running up the score. And I was like, dude, we're trying. Yeah. We're trying not to. Like, and I've been on the other side of it where it seems like, but I mean, you guys were just, it's hard to not run up the score when you put a second string kid in who's not played all year and might not play again. And you're like, hey,
take it easy, guy.
Don't do your best.
Yeah.
Or like, he's like, this is my moment to shine. He's running harder than ever. And obviously we do our best by taking out the starters. And the gentleman's agreement, for people who don't know football that well, before halftime, you have free reign to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
In high school football, you can throw, you can score, you can go for two. It doesn't matter. The gentleman's agreement amongst coaches is always the first half, no rules.
Mm-hmm.
You score, you do whatever you want. The second half, if you're up 35, the clock is running, you sit some of your starters, you stop throwing the ball so much, and you kind of slow things down a little bit to be respectful to the other team. So a lot of these games, we are experiencing that from this side for the first time, whereas before we were on the other side watching the other team. Like, if they throw the ball, I'm crossing this field and I'm fighting them. Now it's like, hey, Coach Plant, just don't throw the ball. Or like we signal in the wrong play and one of our silly backup quarterbacks is like, pass play. And you're like, oh, now we look like jerks. But yeah, we went on a pretty good run there.
First home game, or second home game of the year, Walkersville.
Yeah, that was I don't remember. Man, I've seen so many games.
I remember it all.
My senior year, I remember most of my games, but coaching, I don't.
It was really close at halftime. I think it was actually 14-14 with 30 seconds left. Nashawn McKinney, he caught a kick return, ran up the left sideline, and that was when like the high school music started to play. Right. That was when we realized like let's do something, because I've never beat any of these teams before other than the usual suspects. It's like we've never put up a fight, and it's like, oh my God, Nashawn McKinney, like
of all people,
the 5'5", like
the track star, who's not quite a football kid, but I mean, he was a worker, man. He came to practice every day and did as much as he could.
Exactly. Yeah. And Linganore was a tough loss for sure.
Yeah. So Linganore was
at Linganore, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we won't talk about that. Then Oakdale at home, we beat them up pretty good. And TJ, that was their first year of having varsity football in a while, like a regular season varsity football game. And they're a developing program. They're trying to figure it out. We were at TJ that year. We did our march over. Yeah. That was a good time. Then playoffs hit North Hagerstown, 55-7 at the first quarter. We knew what that was going to be. And then the true first test was Damascus, man. They're a powerhouse, and they came in, they had some dudes, and watching the film, we were feeling good, but we were nervous, we were cautious, and man, we put it on them too.
That was probably the funnest game of my high school career.
Not Franklin?
I mean, I know Franklin was fun, but it was like what solidified our undefeated at home. Yeah. That was the biggest part. Like Sweet Caroline playing. We ran. I forgot what the play was called, but we had a double motion to Trayvon reverse all the way on the left side, and just Chris laid a kid out. Chris laid a kid out on like the last second where Trayvon was running for a touchdown, and that was like Sweet Caroline was already playing. I was like, this is like the dream senior year. Like we defended our home turf. Like Frederick High can never say that other than the year next, but Frederick High can never say that they defended their home turf. Mm-hmm. Didn't lose a single game, didn't drop a game, and all the seniors. I remember the O-line group chat. We were all like, guys, we did it. Like next step now, and then you could talk about Franklin. Franklin
was one of the greatest high school football games I've ever seen, and to this day I will have that film on deck in my house somewhere. That is my favorite game of all time. I mean, they had some dudes, and it's Franklin. They're another powerhouse team. So we ran the gauntlet after I mean, Linganore, Oakdale, those are tough games. TJ and North, they weren't that
We had
hard
the hardest
games.
3 for sure.
And then going Damascus, Franklin, Linganore, that playoff run is definitely among the hardest 3 playoff games in the state there. But Franklin, man, they had 4 dudes that were just like lights out fast. They were like 4-4, 4-3, 4-2 type kids, and it was like, I don't know how we're gonna be able to run with these dudes. But we just kind of knuckled up and went double tights and ran it down their throat. Yeah. Our sophomore running back ran for 300 yards that game. Our O-line put it on. Our quarterback play was he made some mistakes, and he admits that he made some bigger mistakes than he had wished he wanted to, and we couldn't get the ball in the air very much. But it was a cold game, and it was at Franklin, and Franklin did not have any thought in their mind that they were going to lose to us. No. They were big. We wore our white jerseys that no one can read, so their announcer was talking trash on us the whole game. Yeah. They had these giant cannons. Every time they scored, they'd set these cannons off, and even though you knew it was coming, you'd flinch every single time because it was so loud. But man, did we turn that one around, and then RJ's strip there, the fumble recovery was like, this is it. And then they had a decision to make, and the refs were taking their time, and we were all like, this is BS. Like, we know we got this. And even then, we were still up, but that would have just put the game away. Yeah. Man, that game was incredible.
That was one of I think senior year, especially for us, not to sound corny, but it was storybook. I was like, let's win, that's Frederick. And just doing that against Franklin, which is a team that I remember in middle school I would watch play against Linganore.
Right.
Win a state championship run. I'm like, will I ever be these guys? Like, will these guys be like, yeah, these guys are killing it. Like, these guys are doing it. It's like we're playing these teams. And I could speak on Franklin too. We had a couple of core injuries to core. I think that's what messed up our season for sure. But I don't think anyone was mad at our senior year.
No, not at all. And Linganore was a tough one too. Like he said, we had 2 or 3 major injuries to starters that we needed that were like just showed our depth again at week 13 of the season. We were 1 game away from the state title, and like we're getting emails and like scheduling things on like when to go down and tour the stadium and things like that. And it's like, man, I'm doing my best. I'm holding it all back from you guys and from the other coaches because I don't need these distractions. Like, we're so focused on Linganore. But I mean, then we had some questionable calls in that game as usual. Right, the officiating is definitely questionable. I'm not even going to get into that, but it was a tough game. We scored, so it says 23-14 loss, but we scored 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
if that indicates anything.
We would have been up 14-0.
Yeah.
It was an interesting game. I don't look at it as any but
I mean, they're an incredible team. No loss to them. They were incredible, and did they win the state title?
They lost by a touchdown after being down like 42. Yeah. Or something like that. That's when we were talking about like, oh my God, if we were there.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a really fun year. And again, it kind of springboarded us into the next season where we went undefeated regular season, won our first playoff game, and then the next game we were all sick. And I'm not going to get into that. We went 10-1 that next year, lost that next game by 3 points in the playoffs there to an opponent that went on and lost in the state title game. Could have had that one, but whatever. Get your flu shot, kids. So yeah, man, it's high school football.
I could just like a finisher about it. Getting into collegiate sports and like at the D1 level especially, and talking with my other friends, especially at that level, it's like, guys, we miss high school. We miss when it was the Emmanuel Felixes, which I'm still really good friends with, but it's like, we got kids that you would never expect to play football, to be tough, to do whatever, to play with us every snap, play with us even through an ACL injury. He wanted to play his senior year.
He had a kick return touchdown on JV as an ACL injury.
Yeah, he's a testament of like what high school football represents, because he was my childhood best friend. Right. We were friends at 6 years old. Andy, come out. I haven't seen you in a bit. Let's go play football. We'll spend more time together. He's like, all right, I'll do it. And it's different at collegiate level, and I guess I could speak a bit about it, but the collegiate level is a business. But high school football is family. Like, I'm going to talk to you forever. I'm going to talk to Coach Plant, Coach Cadden, Trayvon always texts me. All these guys always text me. We're always going to check up on each other, but when you get to college, it's not the same. So just to speak on high school football and what it's taught me, and what I'm sure taught so many people. Like, I'll text Anthony how he's doing. He's so happy to hear from me. I'm so happy to hear from him. It's like the smile you get on your face because you went through the ringer with these guys. You guys didn't know what you were doing. We were 16,
kids
17, 18 years old. Yeah, just having fun. So, yeah, I mean, thank you. I never said thank you for...
No, you've said it enough. You've said it enough just by being the person you are and then representing our program and growing our culture. So
yeah, that's great.
Some people, that's the furthest they'll go in life. For some people, that's their biggest accomplishment is what we're looking at here 3-4 years later. As the time we beat Franklin and the time we beat Damascus. I mean, some people, this is the highlight of their life, and they'll look at that film forever, and they'll cherish it. They'll share it with their kids, and they'll be that dad in the stands who was like, we beat Franklin my senior year. Like, it's all cyclical, but it's all a lot of fun. It's all in good spirits, and the lessons that we learn and the fun things that we've done, and those stories are stories you can carry with you forever. So
100%. People look at high school football and, like, when you see those guys, sure, it's a bit tacky, but there's no ill will behind their eyes. Like, they had the time of their lives. They worked as hard as they possibly could when you didn't know how to work hard. And I can't speak on this, but when you're an adult, I'm sure it's a lot harder. But you were putting in every single inch of effort when you were a kid to...
And I think the hardest part is when you're like, I can see exactly the potential, but they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, come on, we're so close. And like your sophomore, junior year when we started to make that switch into being a more successful program, and like obviously COVID season didn't work out the way anybody wanted it to, but like we were so close. That 4 and 6 year when we made playoffs, there was like 3 games that could have gone the other way if we would have just had that one click in the right direction. Like, God, we were so close. Come on, guys, just a little more, a little more. That's all we need. So yeah, moving from football into track talk.
Yeah.
So you went from a team sport, and you just talked about how impactful that was for you. So now you're moving into an individual sport where, yes, you're a part of a team. Yes, you're part of a group of guys that work and practice every single day. But now the spotlight is on you and your performance, and the spotlight is on you and how hard you have worked individually.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think a big part of it for me was understanding that it's not the same ignorance, actually. You can't go into it being like, I'm the best. I'm gonna be the best. I went into track obviously not knowing what I was doing. I was strong. I was a strong kid. I threw shot put well when I was like 11 years old before. But it taught me how to fall in love with the details and fall in love with the process, which is what I already had from football. But it's like, what does your right foot do in the middle of the circle to increase your throw by this amount of feet? It's like a little thing like, oh, your heel dropped in the bag. Like, I wish you did that in the competition. I wish you didn't do that. It's like what is going on? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm seeing all these things I need to improve on, and it translates so far to my interviews for investment making. Like that's what I'm trying to do, right? So when I talk about it, like, I realize that most of the questions can easily be answered by, yeah, I spent 6 hours watching a video of me throwing, like, as we took a bus ride back from the track.
Right. You're almost coaching yourself.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the difference. Even though you have a coach at that level who's going to help you as much as he can, he doesn't feel what you feel. He doesn't know what your body's going through. And so it was weird to go from a team sport where all the glory's on everyone to, like, if you mess up, you mess up. Like, you're gonna have the worst performance of your life. You're gonna be sad, and when you do great, you do great. But then you're also gonna think, oh, I should have done this.
Right.
So just switching to that sport was such a weird feeling for me. I think you could talk about it with, like, powerlifting and anything like that. But
so in powerlifting, what I saw was like the culture there was super supportive, and you could speak for the same for track. But like in powerlifting, everybody wants you to go 9 for 9 and hit your numbers. Everyone wants you to beat them. Everyone wants to beat you, and like just have this back and forth. There's not like this catty, like, I'm better than you and here's why. It's like everyone is so super open and supportive to one another. And there's also the you versus you, where it's like, last year at this meet I did this, and it's not so much like, yes, I want to hit a state record, but more importantly I want to go 9 for 9. More importantly, I want to beat my last max. So what's that translate to for you in track?
Yeah, I would say it's really similar, where everyone will throw together during warm-ups. Everyone's like, yo, that was far, let's go. But like in my head, it's like I'm going against myself. Like I'm in the ringer. Like I still can't really control this too well, but like before a track meet, I'm thinking a million things. My heart's racing. And it's not because of the people I'm going against. Like there's no thought about that. It's
Right.
like, what am I doing? Like I have to go against myself. Like I have to do this cue that I practiced 20 hours this week for, and if I don't do it in a meet, it's over. Like,
Right.
and then you watch your teammate do something great, right? Like I have the best teammates at Columbia, the most supportive guys, but at a meet, they're gonna cheer for you, but you're still there for yourself. Like
Right.
they can't be in your body, throwing your throw, doing your form. They can't be doing your lift for you. Sure, they're gonna cheer you on, but that's just noise. And you know, right before you throw, right before you lift, it's blacked out. You don't hear anything. It's just background noise, and
Right.
you kind of have to wake up and do it yourself. So.
And I had an interesting moment this weekend where I kind of saw the beginning of that. I worked with a kid yesterday that's powerlifting for like the first time ever. He's in his first program, preparing for his first meet. He's a high school kid, and he's just trying to like, and he's just overthinking everything. Where he's like talking to himself and doing his sit-ups are taking forever, and it's just like, man, it like the obsession is begun, but he's also like he hasn't taken that step towards like, all right, I'm functional, I'm comfortable, and my form is good. Now let me just go. And it's really interesting to see how far I've come and kind of how my work is when I'm one-on-one by myself down here versus this kid who's the first time ever just taking some pointers from me, but also like, all right, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And then he does one rep and he's like, oh, I messed up. And I'm like, dude, your form was like 98% there. Go again and do it 4 times because you're close enough. And you'll get the work just fine. So it's really interesting to see that. So how does work ethic come into play in an individual sport? In team sports, you have like teammates who push each other, and you got guys that'll jump down your throat when you're not being accountable to yourself, and you got coaches that'll do that on both sides. But how does that translate to an individual sport?
Right. Yeah, I think one of the most important things you're going to learn during an individual sport was also what you guys would preach, that no one's coming to save you. So every YMCA session, every late night session where I drove 20 minutes to get to this circle by myself, I have to set up a camera to record myself. It was like, I'm here completely by myself. No one's watching me. No one knows what I do. I could go home right now. No one would know. They would assume I worked hard. I would tell them, yeah, I was at Urbana. I was doing this. But if you don't do it, you're never going to get better. So, and one of the biggest like motivating factors for me, especially in high school, was like, let's get a scholarship. Let's get into these schools that I want to get into. So that work in silence was necessary. Like, I'm not going to reap the fruits of my hard work if I don't put in the hard work, obviously. But it was the hardest times because I would finish the lifting session, I would be by myself, sure. And then it's 9 p.m. I'm hungry, I'm tired, no one's here, it's completely silent.
It'd be easy to just go to bed, go home,
so
play
easy.
some video games, eat some pizza.
Look at my phone.
So easy.
Do anything else, but throw a heavy ball, do one of the hardest like technical movements you could do over and over and over and over again. And insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result, but most of the time it's the same result or worse. Like most of the practice throws you throw worse than you do, and then when you have that one throw, it's like, all right, what did I do there? Now let me watch this video for 4 hours so I can try to replicate that. It's like it feels almost brainless, but just you need that brainlessness. You need to be able to go through something over and over and over again and expect that little result.
And I think what you've experienced and what I've experienced is you have like the ultimate of both sides. You get the camaraderie, you get the taught discipline, you get what Coach Plant used to refer to as close to combat as you can get without Mortal Kombat in football, where it's like as intense as it can be. You teach how to be, you learn how to be accountable, you learn how your actions affect others, and then you go to the individual side where it's like, now I can work on my discipline, I can work on me versus me, I can learn about myself and how to push myself, and now you have the best of both worlds, and I think that sets you up the best. I mean, I'm down here by myself at 4 a.m. and it's like,
I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I don't know either sometimes. But there's no one here to push me. So I have to reflect on both those lessons and be like, all right, this is how I take the next step. And granted, yes, I would benefit from working with a team, a group of guys, multiple coaches, like yes, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to become a millionaire off of powerlifting or bodybuilding. I'm not going to become world famous. Like the things that don't necessarily, the important part to me is knowing my discipline, pushing myself, and being able to come down and do it each day.
Yeah, not to go off on a tangent, but I think one of the like best examples that I was talking with my cousins about it. Is like you have to do anything how you're gonna do everything. So if you're gonna do something like more like if I'm gonna play basketball, I'm gonna try my absolute.
You're try hard.
hardest.
There we are. We're circling back to it. Now you're try hard.
Circling back to that mindset, but I think that's how you have to do it. Because why would you want to be subpar from your best? Why would you want to look cool? Why would you want to do this? It's like,
and if you're just doing it to go through the motions, why bother? You could spend your time doing something more specific.
Yeah, you might as well shoot up your dopamine, do something else, like play video games,
Fortnite,
play Fortnite, do something else. But I think that mindset is not instilled in a lot of people, but in the individual sports, you have to have it, or else you're not going to be good, and then you're just going to quit. Like that's usually what happens. So it's attention to detail. Like every lift you do matters, every set, every rep, which is the craziest part. Every step you take into the gym, like, are you going to stretch a little bit? Are you actually going to take your warm up seriously? And it's how you do anything. So
and there's the difference, and I saw it in you, and I don't know much about track. I definitely don't know much about shot put. But after football was over, you became obsessive. And like I do it too, where I'm down here and I lift for an hour and a half every single day. I'm doing an hour of cardio 4 or 5 days a week. My nutrition is dialed in. I'm obsessed over it, but there's still like gaps. So I'm like, when I'm sitting on my couch for an hour, what else can I be doing? Like physically, nothing, because I need to recover. But what else? There's got to be something else I can be doing. And I saw that with you, and like doing all the weight room stuff and doing all the shot put stuff, and then I see you throwing, and I see you watching video and watching tape of throwing and exercises there, and then you're just working around the clock for it.
Yeah, you would get texts of like, "Is this squat good?" Like, and that video would be sent to like 6 other people, getting as much feedback as possible. Like, I had to become obsessed with it because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a coach, so I was like, let's get better at this, and that's sort of how I try to take anything. It's definitely harder in college. It's definitely harder when you're growing up and you're starting to like have different motivations other than throwing a shot put or playing high school football or doing any of that. It gets different because the real world comes, but I'm still trying to implement the same strategies in everything I do.
So moving to the academic side of things, you're a brilliant young man. So what were your accomplishments coming out of high school? Because you were not just an average high school diploma student.
Yeah, so my freshman year I came in, my family has always preached like academics first, athletics second, and I realized I wasn't going to the NFL. Like I probably wasn't gonna do this. So I was like, let's work hard in school. So I was able to my sophomore year sign up for this early college program, which allowed me to get a degree while also going to Frederick High. So I got a degree from FCC. Eventually I graduated with a 4.72, I believe. Pretty good SAT. Just I wanted to get an Ivy League school. I wanted to get a full scholarship if I was going to go to UMD. I wanted to do all these things. So
you graduated high school with your associates too, right?
I did, yeah. In pre-health professions, I also had like a backup plan. I think this comes a part of being the obsessive. Like during COVID, I was like, all right, I might as well be able to become a nurse, because if this is the only profession, if the world kind of shuts down, I can't play football, I can't throw shot.
Be a COVID response nurse.
Yeah, I was like, let's do it. And I think I'm a semester and a half away from being a nurse still, so if I ever want to drop out of Columbia, I could go down, be a nurse, and power lift for the 2 days I get out. You know, it's always an option. It's always in the back of my head. But yeah, I mean, luckily I had really good friends that were smart too. I had a lot of people that were just motivating me. Also that competition where it's like, my friend is smarter than me. I was like, no, you're not. I'm gonna work harder now. I'm gonna do all these things that I want to do now. So
yeah, so 4-year starting center. 3 years, 2 years college letter or high school letter in track?
Yeah, 2 years in track, 4 years in football.
4.7 GPA and graduated high school at the same time as your associate's degree from SEC.
Yeah.
Pretty outstanding.
I appreciate that.
So you wanted to get in an Ivy League school, and you did.
Yeah, I got into most of the ones that I wanted. I guess like the follow-up question is why Columbia, but I thought New York was the perfect accumulation of no one's coming to save you. You see all the memes, you see all the posts about it. Like,
you also see the worst, man. There's the homeless people in every corner.
Yeah, and I think just being in New York, and you'll realize it when you actually live there. When you go to sleep and you wake up and you hear sirens, you see the worst, and you see people at their worst, and then you also see the richest of the richest getting crowded by millions of photographers. Like I've met some crazy people. Like I've met Paul Rudd in an elevator. It took me out of the Frederick shell, which I'll give a million thanks to Frederick. I've met the greatest people I've met in my life here. I've been surrounded by the greatest people, but I've also been surrounded by the worst. Frederick High, our area, the area I grew up in, it's not the best. Most of the people I knew, they didn't ever make it to what they wanted to do. It taught me humility. It taught me like appreciation for my family setting me up well, my friends setting me up well, my coaches being such great mentors. I thought New York would be the perfect place for me to push myself again. Getting to a school like Columbia, I've met crazy people. I've met the smartest people of my life. I met the most athletic people of my life, and it took me out of my shell, which is exactly what I was looking for. And 2 years removed from Frederick, 2 years into college, I really am happy with my decisions.
Awesome. How's school? How's Columbia's academic rapport?
Yeah, school's tough. As soon as I got there, I like.
So you what? Is there third? You just finished your third year?
I just finished my second year. So yeah, going in my third year. As soon as I got there, I did a test and I was like, oh my gosh, so what am I looking at? Because it was like one of the first times where, sure, I work hard, but everyone around me is a genius,
right.
And they work 10 times harder than me. So I would be in the dorm, I would talk to some of my friends, and it was the coolest part because like my left side neighbor was a Moroccan guy, right? From Morocco. I'm the bestest friends of him. On my right side would be this girl from Spain who's on the U.S. fencing national team.
Wow.
I'm like, or the Spain national team. I'm like, what is going on around me? And then I would see my Moroccan
just
friend.
Dumb football player from Frederick.
I know. I'm like, oh, what is going on? I'm just here to throw
a
a heavy ball.
Little big-headed sixth grader that never would have made it.
I'm just here to throw a heavy ball. But yeah, the academic culture at Columbia, it's like my Moroccan friend would fall asleep at his desk with his door open at 2 a.m., right? And then the next morning I wake up at 9 to go to practice or whatever it was. He's still there. And I'm like, these guys have the same mindset I had in high school with anything that I loved. Wow. In academics. And it was eye-opening to see because I realized I wasn't the smartest. I knew that going into my school, but to see the labor behind their fruits of getting into Columbia as an international student, like doing the hardest of the hard, it was like I could work so much harder. And maybe that's not the way I should see it, but just witnessing.
I think that's a huge lesson that yeah. Man, you could take advantage of that lesson alone, and that could turn you around.
Yeah, it's crazy because in any class I'm in, I'm like, I'm not the smartest, but I'm gonna work my hardest to get a good grade. And nice. Luckily, I have a pretty decent GPA, so we're going into junior year looking good, just searching for internships now. So
nice. Well, that's all that I have. What? Ask me some questions. Put me on the spot here. Let's do this.
Yeah. I had a few written down. I'm not pulling it out, though. I'm just going to go off the top of the head.
Off the rip.
Yeah, one of my favorites was wondering and hearing about the reasons why you left football and what it was like, just knowing that your childhood was surrounded so much by football, knowing what you went through and stuff like that.
So in reflecting, my childhood was surrounded by football just because that's what I dedicated myself to. Mm-hmm. But my childhood was really surrounded by supportive people and mentors and adults that helped me. And everyone, the football obsessed people, yes, they were supporting me for football, but everyone else was just supporting me in what I loved. And at the time I was going just like you, I'm going to the NFL, going to be the best ever. And they didn't care as much as my goal was, just their care and compassion for me was like, hey, whatever this kid wants, we're going to help him get there. And they saw that I was a hard worker. They saw I had grit. They saw I had all the intangibles, and they were like just supportive when I needed it the most. And as I left football and I kind of reflected on a lot of the coaches that I've talked to and coming up and trying to learn as much about the game as I did and as I could have, I was not destined to be a football coach for my entire career. There was a lot of people that spent 10 years sleeping on couches of coaches that knew a lot, that were just trying to learn a little bit. I didn't have that luxury. I didn't have that opportunity. So I was just kind of thrown into the fire. And my whole premise around my 10 years of coaching was built on mentoring and leading and learning and helping people see their potential. So I feel like taking that to a new level, instead of working with the 60, 80 football players, I'm working with as close to 1,900 students in a building as I can. And granted, I'm still new to it, so I'm not quite having the impact that I was hoping to have. But I feel like there's kids that need me more. Like, it's not about winning a game on Friday night anymore. It's about getting some of these kids across the stage so that they can have a better opportunity in life. It's about getting kids the support they need, or getting students the support they need in their home life or in their personal life, that allows them to just make it through another school year, or make it to whatever their next goal is. And I never saw this coming, but the opportunity was just there. And then on the other side of that, I got two boys here that need me as much as I need them. And I didn't have a dad that was healthy my whole life. And I've basically made an unsaid promise to myself and my boys that I'm going to give them everything that I have. And being home for them is just as important as being a good coach, and being a good dad is more important than that. So I was realizing that I wasn't seeing my boys. I was coaching football for 10 years, all of Logan's life and Mason's life, and for Monday through Saturday I wouldn't see them. And my wife was struggling being a single parent during football season. I was like, man, I gotta give them back, or I need to find a better balance, and one of the two needs to give. So I was like, you know what, let's go bigger picture. I still love football. I can still mentor and coach and be around, but it's not as
time consuming.
It's not as time consuming. It's not as specific, and it's not as intricate. But also, it's not as intimate. Like, I don't have the football team doesn't look at me the same way as they did 3 years ago.
Right.
And I get that, and there are probably less kids overall that I have such a tight relationship with. But the kids that I have tight relationships with now are the kids that need it the most. It's not just like a football kid who's trying to go from D3 to D2.
Right.
It's a kid that's like, might not make it to college at all, might not make it out of high school, might not be able to go home tonight. Like, it's a bigger impact.
Yeah. I think, to give some flowers to you, one of the biggest things that I witnessed was your selflessness as well. It's hard to be at a program that loses for so long and you still show up every day, not just on the field, but you'd be in the hallways, you'd be preaching to kids, please come out.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
We are a glutton for punishment, man. It's, if you love something that much and you believe it that much, then you just do it.
Yeah.
There's no thinking. And everyone always asks me, like, why did you do it when you were 1-9? Like, one, no one else was there.
Yeah.
Like, no one else was going to do it. No one was going to give you guys the opportunity.
So I'm going to do it.
So I had to. And granted, I didn't know the X's and O's as much as Coach Planner, Coach Cadden, but I did my best to find those guys and put those guys around the program to make us successful.
Yeah, and we talk about that all the time. Like, I just had a conversation with Savion the other day. It was like, you changed the program, and it wasn't just because of your elite coaching. It was like you found the pieces that you needed. You built the perfect team that was able to do it. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of coaching that people don't realize. It's not because you watch the most film. It's not because you do this. It's because you think about, like, the logistics and the X's and O's all together. So you think about the kids, and you've helped me through a lot of my struggles. You've helped me through a lot of whatever happens. It's like you do that for every single kid, which is the hardest part. And I'm happy to hear that you get to do it on a bigger scale, because you deserve to. And hopefully, if you want, you're a superintendent one day, principal, or whatever you want to do. But
right, and like I said, I got a 7 and 3-year-old, and maybe when they're 14, 7 years from now, the change happens, and I can coach them, or I can just be at their school and support them, and whatever. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Next question I had, though, it's what was the moment with, like, Logan, or when you realize, like, hey, like, this is how I have to parent. This is the change that I have to make. Like, what in your job was like, this is my focus. This is my job. This is my career. And how did you make the dramatic shift? It's like, hey, let me focus in on Logan. Let me make the change. Because I'm just, the reason why I'm asking this question is, like, when you have to make a career change, when you have to do anything like that, what do you, like, say to yourself? Like, what's the thought process behind that?
Well, I think so COVID was a big eye opener for everyone. But I think having Mason and seeing it all over again, from where 7 years ago I experienced all those first things with Logan, and then 3 years ago experiencing all those with Mason, but now seeing Logan, looking at his little brother, it was like, I can't miss this, because I've already missed so many years of this with Logan, missing all the, and I didn't miss a lot of the first. I mean, I'd be at work when he would take his first step or something like that, but just being around him and watching their personalities develop and grow was like, Logan was around early on. He was at a lot of our practices. I mean,
Yeah,
I had
I
managers
remember.
changing diapers. He'd be on the side, but then COVID hit, and because of sickness and just all the factors that came into play, at that point it was basically like he's just going to stay home.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have to be concerned about him. I don't want to have him not get sick. Like it was just like, you know what, it's probably best. And then just all that absent time where I'd come home and he'd be so happy to see me one day, but then the next day he'd already be in bed. Or I'd be texting and rushing out the door, hey, keep him up, I want to see him. Like it was really hard on me, just like, again, having the childhood and the teenage years that I had where my dad was always sick or ill. It was like, I don't want my kid to have an absent father type of mentality.
Right.
So I just need to experience it all with Mason. I need to start over. I need to get it right this time. I need to be the parent that's present, not overbearing, but present. And there needs to be balance. And you see a lot of it in this world where the world is changing, where hard work isn't really a prideful thing anymore.
Yeah.
But I want to come back and make sure my 7-year-old and my 3-year-old know what hard work is, and they know that it's acceptable and it's actually an accomplishment to work hard.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people need that pat on the back. Oh, you're the greatest. And I'd rather just go home after an 8-hour day and just look back on my day myself and be like, man, I worked my butt off today. You know what? I deserve whatever accolade I'm going to give myself. Like, if that's a pat on the back, if that's a half an hour to kick my feet up, I deserve it. I don't need an award. I don't need someone to tell me how great I am. I'm not asking people to tell me how great I am. It's just, I like the grind. I like the hustle. And that's part of the reason why I kind of moved back into bodybuilding.
Yeah. I mean, you look great. Just this question is purely for my personal gain. How do I get up at 4? How do I find the motivation to push through the extra set? Like, what would you say clicked in your mind from you were at your heaviest my junior year, senior year, something like that?
2021, I was 322 that
So
summer.
my junior year, right? So you were at your heaviest, and now you've completely shifted, right? So just making that shift, how do you motivate yourself to do that? I know how hard it is to cut weight. I know my sophomore year, I cut down to like 200 pounds right before COVID shut down. You're like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know.
And I think a big emphasis that I want to make, and I was talking to that kid powerlifting yesterday, is kids shouldn't focus on body weight as like
and I made that mistake.
as a factor of the way they want to live their lives. Like if you want to be the strongest powerlifter, if you want to be the fastest runner, let your body weight just go. Like just chill. If that means you lose a little bit of weight because you're working so hard and you're eating right, then good. If that means you gain a little weight because you're working hard and you're eating right, and like as long as everything has a balance, then just let it be.
Right.
Don't worry about having abs in high school. Don't worry about getting massive in high school. Just ride it out. Just do the right things. If you want to get stronger, you're going to get bigger. You're going to gain a little fat, yes, but if that's how strength works. Right. The biggest thing for me, man, when I was 322 and people are dropping dead left and right, like everywhere across the world for being heavy, and like I felt it, man. I felt heavy. My joints hurt. I couldn't sleep right. I think the biggest factor was one night I just had a great night of sleep and was like, I want that more. How do I chase that? and then just as like, so I worked my way up to 322, eating a gallon of ice cream and drinking chocolate milk every single night. And
a gallon, right?
A gallon of chocolate milk every day, and a gallon of party cake ice cream every night. I was doing that to try and get up to super heavyweight so I could break my brother's record in bench press, which I did. Getting up to there was exhausting. Like it was hard work to eat 7,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the competition was over, I dropped like 40 pounds right away. So my like natural body weight at the time was more around 290, 280. So I was like immediately, as soon as I stopped force feeding, it was like, I feel better already. Like I was having what I called a wake apnea, where I'd be sitting on the couch and I'd be snoring.
Yeah.
Like I'd be snoring and coughing and like, what was that? And she'd be like, are you laughing? I'm like, no, I'm just struggling to breathe here. So that was like, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary just to be like, I might not wake up tomorrow at this body weight.
Yeah.
And naturally I shouldn't carry that much weight. So I just started like working back and trying to get in a routine, because after that powerlifting meet, I took like a year off from the gym. Like I just couldn't get myself motivated. I didn't have the same mentality. I didn't have the same energy. Like everything started to decline, where most people are like, oh, it kind of happens as you get older. Wait till you get older. You hear that from everybody.
Yeah.
That started to happen. I was like, that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
So I'm at this point. My dad was 35 when he was diagnosed with MS. I'm 34, so I'm approaching turning 35, and I kind of saw it with my brother. I was like, there's going to be a huge lifestyle change for both of us when we approach this age, because I don't want to be my father.
Right.
So it started last April. The wife and I started kind of tracking our weight, trying to eat better, and trying to just get on this verge of eating healthier and kind of getting our life back in control. So I was about 280 then, not this past April, but the year before. I was 280, and I just started dialing, counting my macros, counting my nutrition, and just kind of making sure everything was right. So slowly started to lose weight then, and was doing things right, getting back into working out. And it just kind of started this trend of feeling better. And like every day, every week, every time I looked at the scale, like I stopped less focusing on the scale as like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds this week, I'm going to lose 5 pounds this week. It was more like the scale is just a result. I'm focusing on the input, the amount of work I put in, the nutrition I put in, the calories I put in. If I can set goals on that, everything else follows. And I've been up and down. I've been bringing the calories up to try and see if I can gain a little and gain healthy and still feel good, and then bring the calories down and lose some, and just kind of, I've been on this track. But since it was after last November, after Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, about 30 days, I did a 30-day challenge of like, I'm going to eat perfect. I'm going to dial in my diet. I'm going to put my nutrition down. I'm going to write exactly what I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat perfect every single day. And for 30 days I did, and I felt amazing. And after 30 days, like the 20th day, I didn't have any cravings. I was feeling good. I was able to get up earlier. My sleep, now when I sleep, it's like I hit the pillow and I'm out. And then I get up, and I get up too early. I don't sleep enough, but I feel great because I slept great. But just that trend just kind of builds on itself. So that was going into Christmas. At Christmas, I kind of let it go a little bit. I gained probably 15 pounds because I ate whatever I wanted. I drank a little, like it was all right. And then that whole week I felt like crap. Combination of I haven't eaten like that in a while, and also my sleep suffered, everything kind of suffered. And then I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. Like a cheat meal here and there, like maybe that'll be acceptable, but man, drinking is poisonous. And if I don't drink for a long time and then have a couple drinks, that's what's going to happen. I feel like crap. So after that week, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and beat everybody else. My New Year's resolution is going to destroy everybody else's. So I started this podcast on the first Monday after New Year's. I started eating right. Here I am 160 days in. I've eaten 4 square meals a day, plus my shakes, plus my protein bars, and just everything's been dialed in. My calories, I started at 4,200. I've brought myself down to 2,600. I don't get cravings very often. I have recently, just because my calories are so low, but like I don't remember what pizza tastes like. So it's not like I'm sitting here like, oh, I could go for pizza. I could go for the drinking part. Like I don't drink socially, but it's so that attention you garner and from like people who are like want to be the life of the party. I'm not really a very outwardly social person. Now if I'm at a wedding and I have a couple drinks, I can be the most outwardly social person there is. But now it's kind of shifted to where like I have the light on me for a different light. Instead of being the guy who's screaming and yelling and having the best time of the night, now I'm the guy that everyone's like, yo, this dude is so disciplined. Like they come up to me, they're like, I want to do what you do. I wish I could dial in my diet like that. I want to bring Tupperware to parties. Like and maybe it's an age difference where it's no longer cool to just be the most drunk person at a party, but now it's cool to be the most disciplined person at a party. And it actually comes full circle because last night, man, we went to Il Forno. I know. My favorite pizza place of all time. So good. So we were out on 40 just getting, I had to get a new phone because I broke mine. But Logan was like, I want pizza. I don't want to get it from Il Forno. Lauren looks at me and I was like, that's fine. So we go, I have a couple diet sodas and they eat pizza and I'm doing all right. But then we get up to leave and I take the boys first. We go to the car and it was like, they're better, but they sat there for like an hour. Pizza took a little while longer. It was busy. So they ate, took them in the car. She's finishing her last couple bites, waiting for the check. And I leave, and she comes back to the car, and she's like, when you left, some girl from the bar came up to me, my wife, and was like, you two look like a Greek god and Greek goddess. She was like, and then she went on this tirade about how it wouldn't work between me and the lady from the bar because of her sign or whatever. But it was like, that compliment was like, man. Like I don't know who this woman was. I don't care who she was. It's genuine. It's genuine because it was out of nowhere, and it was when I walked away. If it would have been there, and like she was like, I don't know, I've never really been hit on by a woman at a bar in Il Forno. But in front of your wife either. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what her goal was, but it was like, one, it felt really good to have someone out of nowhere compliment you, and two, it was like, man, people are seeing my work, and I'm glad I skipped the pizza that night because it was like. It just kind of reinstilled that for me.
I think this is just to add to it, but it's all, we're very similar in the no shame part. It's like you're gonna go your heaviest weight, right? Because you want to break a record. You're
Right.
gonna do that. You're gonna cut down. You're gonna be the fittest guy your age. You're gonna cut back on the alcohol, cut back on the pizza, because you're gonna do it. That's
Right.
what you want to do. And I think that's one of the most like important lessons that I hope touches a lot of people, and also goes full circle to this podcast, because you don't care how many people watch. If it's 3, okay. If it's 100, if it's 1,000, eventually, right? As long as you make the difference in one person, that's what you're going for. And I don't think you can beat that mindset, because it's going to carry out throughout your entire life. You're going to teach Logan how to do it. You're going to teach the little one that I just met, and it's just like Logan's twin, how to do it. I think that's the perfect way to sum up like what I would want to say to any kid in the future generation. It's like, don't have shame in what you want to do.
Right.
If you're going to do it, let's go for it. Let's try your hardest.
Right, be a worker, man. That's the biggest difference. And if I could instill that in all the kids in this society today, like I have no fear of job security right now, and I do a good job, I feel, and I work very hard, and I'll do anything I can to protect my job. But when I look at some of the kids coming out of high school that are like, I'm going to go into real estate because I heard it's easy, and I'm like, man, I will outwork this generation for at least the next 30 years, because physically I will dominate that.
You won't outwork me though.
Yeah, I mean, there's one. Okay, there's plenty of other jobs for the two of us.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if there's one thing I could instill in kids nowadays, it'd be, man, just work hard. Yeah. Enjoy the work, enjoy the discipline, enjoy the suck, and work hard, because it will pay back.
Embrace the suck. That's what I used to say a lot, right?
Right.
I think that's what should be preached. And your podcast, again, no shame. Let's give a message to one kid. If it changes his life, it changes it. And it ties back to your role as an AP. And hopefully I'm able to do that when I'm older. After I work for a while, I do eventually want to coach. I do eventually want to do something where I can just make a difference. And I'm telling you, as long as it changes one kid's mindset, it changes one person's mindset, you change one person's life, you've made the world a difference. So.
Right, and like I said, someone did that for me. So I'm returning the favor as often as I can, and it's just as important for that one kid I talked to yesterday versus the next 55 kids I talked to. So
you did it for me, so
I appreciate it. Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, well, that's everything. Do you want to put out your handles and things like that?
Yeah, most of my handles are just Adam and then Oezaw, so Adam Moezaw with 1 M. So go ahead if you would like.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Give us a like, follow, and review. Give us them 5 stars, because that's what we need to share our message. You can see me everywhere at CoachB_knows, and we'll see you again next time with another great interview. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.